The e-toll conversation is once again back on the cards, and the Congress of the South African Trade Unions, that's Cosatu in Gauteng, is gearing up for a stay-away in protest against e-tolls. At a media briefing yesterday, the trade union said it is angered by Finance Minister Tito Mboweni's recent announcement that government would continue with the system. There have been a series of mixed messages on the future of the tolls. Early this year, Gauteng Premier David Makhura admitted that they had failed and would not be part of the province's plans. Months later, Minister of Transport Nzimande made it clear that a decision to scrap the system had not been made as yet. But to discuss this further, we're now joined by Cosatu's Gauteng Provincial Secretary, Dumisani Dakile. Good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Good morning to you and to the listeners.
All right, so we know Cosatu's standpoint on e-tolls. You've always been against it. This is nothing new. But there's been a couple of statements that have been made, and I think what's really made you cross was what came out of the budget, the mini-budget from our Finance Minister Tito Mboweni. Talk to us about why this is now resurfaced.
Well, I think we're all of us shocked. And, you know, it is a moment that we regard it as a déjà vu moment. We feel that we have been in this place before, but we are capable of dealing with the matter, because we think that people are sent to government so that they can able to go there and transform how government and the state function. But to our surprise, I mean, this thing has been a pattern. Everyone who goes in there becomes transformed himself, and he begins to articulate the positions of government, then articulating the positions of the party. We have engaged with the ANC for quite some time, and we thought all of us have a consensus in relation to this particular question, that the system is not sustainable, and that the system is just a daylight robbery, and we need to find an alternative, which we have provided the alternatives on what is that needs to be considered. Because we are not necessarily saying that the entire infrastructure must be destroyed. We are not saying that the entire infrastructure cannot be used. But our view is the fact that it can be used quite better to ensure that there's a law enforcement agencies are able to utilize it. There's better management of the freeway through the utilization of the system. That there is also an alternative on how these things must be paid. So that's where we thought we were. There comes the former dinosaur called Tito Mboweni. Suddenly then the issue's back on the agenda.
And this after the ANC have said, their leaders here in Gauteng have said that they're against e-tolls. We've seen Tshwane also saying they're against the e-tolls, but now a little bit of a turn last week where it's like back on the cards now, someone has to pay for e-tolls. And when we talk about someone having to pay for e-tolls, you have given the solution. You have said, if I'm not mistaken, take 10 cents from the fuel levy, from the existing fuel levy. Don't put more onto the petrol price, but take 10 cents and put that towards the e-tolls. Is that your solution?
That's the solution. And it's just resolve all these particular questions that are there, so that we're able to focus on the real issue. And the real issue here is the fact that there is no public transport system that is accessible. There's no public transport system that is safe. There's no public transport system that is reliable. There's no public transport system that is accessible. There's no public transport system that is intermodal. And we're saying the debate and the discussion, that's why it's supposed to be. Because to also expand these freeways, it is not a solution, you know. I mean, if you look in terms of the state of our trains, is in mess. You look in terms of the state of the transport system, in terms of the buses. As we speak now, as I was coming here, many PADCO buses are scrapped.
Yeah.
They're stuck on the freeway. And this is what our workers and our members are being exposed to. And we're saying to government, take 10 cents, pay off these things of the e-tolls. Let's have a thorough and a proper discussion on how to resolve this particular question.
What do we do now? Because we're in a position where you've got the provincial government, and I think I alluded to this in my previous question, you've got the provincial government who are saying no to e-tolls. You've got the national government that are saying yes, you have to pay the e-tolls. Who has the final word ultimately?
Well, I think finally it is the people that have a final word, because government is not just government for itself or for its own sake. Government is government by the people and for the people. And we are seeing those that are in national government, if they are not careful, in actual fact, they will be donating this particular province to the opposition party.
I mean, when we first saw e-tolls coming, there was so much controversy when it was introduced, especially with its financing of 67 billion rand incurred in the process. How do you think motorists are being robbed, as you put it yesterday?
Well, basically, you know, when you talk about project management, there are certain things that you can do, there are certain things that you cannot do. This thing has been a mess from the beginning, because private, what you call capital, who have invested in these things, and those that have been involved in the construction of this road, colluded. There is evidence to that regard as to why Sanral and the law enforcement agencies didn't pay to them. It puzzles our mind. But we think that there are deeper political economy in relation to this particular matter, which is something that we think now we need to be able to further investigate. In whose interest, in actual fact, it is to continue with this particular system? Who are the beneficiaries, in actual fact, who want this system to be pursued at all cost? So those are the fundamental questions that we think that we need to be able to probe further.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'll therefore be able to give us the reason why some section of our leaders are so interested in continuing with the system that is so blatantly what called flawed.
What do you advise motorists, though? Because at the end of the day, it's me, it's you, it's everyone around us here that uses the roads in Gauteng that are, you know, we're being charged all the time. Do we pay e-tolls? Do we not pay e-tolls? Do we stand together in unison and say we refuse to do this, but then the road infrastructure collapses around us? I mean, what do we do? We're constantly getting mixed messages. Some people are reporting that they're getting SMSs telling them to go to court because there's final summonses against them. So everybody is very, very confused at this time. So what are you telling your members? What are you telling South Africans?
Well, we think that what was the last part to bury this particular system, we need to be united. People must heed our call. On Friday, they must join us as we face the president. We're putting this matter squarely in his shoulders, that this is a matter that he must be able to resolve. Because these roads of Gauteng are not necessarily Gauteng's roads. These are national roads. Without this road, there's no economy of this country. Without this road, there's no economy in Africa. So you can't only put this burden to the people of Gauteng, who contribute so much to the fiscals, which are distributed across the country. So these are national roads, these are national assets. Everyone must be able to take account of what they produce to the economy for it to grow. So
this memorandum, firstly, what does it say? And then my next question to you is, what are you asking? When you talk about people doing a stay away, what are you asking South Africans to do? But let's talk about the memorandum first that you're going to be handing over, your demands.
Our demands first and foremost that this system must be scrapped. Secondly, we need a further investigation in relation to these issues. Why Sanral failed to pay you, those that colluded, who became corrupt and charged exorbitant amount of money for the construction of these particular roads. Thirdly, we want to understand exactly who are the beneficiaries out of this thing, because we don't think that someone could have not thought that in terms of this system, for each and every rand that it collects, about 90 cents of this money goes to Austria, and only 10% of that money remains here, which is only 10 cents, which does not benefit our economy, it does not benefit our people. But why people are so interested in pursuing a system that has failed? So those are the things that we are raising on a memorandum.
Okay.
And we are saying to the president, he has been involved, by the way, as a deputy president. And he knew and he considered to us that this thing is not workable. Yeah. We need to find a solution, which we provided to the solution. So we'll be reminding him also on the stance and the position that he has taken.
Okay.
But the last part then, in terms of what it is that we expect from our people, we are saying that they must continue to boycott, not to buy the e-tags.
The e-tags, don't buy e-tags.
Don't buy e-tags. And secondly, we still continue to say to them, they must not what you call pay for this particular bills that are being given to them. We are starting this campaign on Friday, but this is not the end of this campaign. Each and every month we're going to have a campaign. We're going to confront the Sanral, we're going to confront the government, we're going to confront the Minister of Finance, we're going to confront the Minister of Transport in relation to this particular question.
Okay, so in terms, so you're calling on people to do all of these things, but what is happening on Friday? Will you be interrupting traffic flows, asking people to stay away? What do you mean by that? Will it be a difficult day for Gauteng commuters?
Definitely it's going to be.
So you're going to be interrupting traffic flows?
We're going to be interrupting everything.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's one way of getting government to listen. And that's where I imagine the frustration comes in, is that you've been trying. I think at the beginning of this interview, it almost feels like déjà vu is what you said. You'd thought that we'd come quite a long way, but it feels like we've almost gone back right to the beginning now for this fight against e-tolls.
Well, we understand it is the nature of the struggle. Sometimes you think that we have moved 3 steps backward. You wake up the following day, instead we have moved 4 steps backward. So it is a continuation of the process moving forward. But we believe that, and we're quite confident that there is unity in relation to this thing across all political formation in Gauteng in confronting this particular monster. It is not in the interest of Gauteng, it's not in the interest of the country.
Yeah. I want to just put, to wrap up, and I'm going to bring in one of your former comrades, Nzimande, into the conversation. So he puts out a tweet just a few hours ago saying, Cosatu is marching against e-tolls after campaigning to have a conservative businessman lead the ANC without demanding anything in return. When NUMSA called for an end to workers signing a blank check, they were dismissed. Who is the Minister of Transport, by the way? How do you react to comments like that?
Well, I will think Nzimande must look at his party, his organization. I think he has much more trouble than Cosatu itself, and that will be my advice to the former General Secretary of Cosatu, that there's a lot that is at stake in terms of maintaining that particular master office. Let him focus there and allow Cosatu to be able to pursue its own what you call interest.
So there you go. Just to update you on what he said today, we're also rallying against the e-tolls. You spent 5 years complaining and mobilizing against the effects of pro-business economic policies. Next, you mobilize workers to vote for the continuation of the same. Who's fooling who? So politics always playing a big role in all of this. But nonetheless, back to the topic at hand, e-tolls Friday. Big protests in Gauteng. The plan is to do a big shutdown, hand over a memorandum to the president. So expect disruptions in Gauteng. Big disruptions is your warning.
Well, definitely. And
okay.
We are calling upon for the people of Gauteng to join us.
To join in
taking this stand in relation to this matter.
Nzimande Dakile, who is the Gauteng Provincial Secretary of Cosatu, we thank you very much for your time and for talking to us here on the program. Let's take a